Hello everyone, it is so good to see you, and I do mean that. It's always good to see you, because if you clicked on this video, that means you are a fellow Tales fan, and we have a lot of things to relate with one another. One thing being the Remastered project. The Tales of Remastered project is something that we've been following very closely. We're like, what are they going to announce next? Are they going to announce this game from way back then? Are they going to give me a title that I've been long awaiting to see some kind of retranslation of? Brought over to the West, but they're just remasters of the most recent Tales games. Tales of Graces, Tales of Exilia. That's not a bad one, by the way. These two are not bad to bring over here because they originally were on the PS3 and we haven't had any means of getting them elsewhere. So bringing them to more audiences, that's a good thing. It should be celebrated that this series can be shared with more people around the world. But then we come to the most recent announcements. That was one Tales of Vesperia, a title which a lot of us can just readily get already. This was on the PS4 originally, or at least I got it on the PS4. It's available on Steam. It's probably on sale on Steam at this very moment. Why? Why do we get this one of all of them? It's not that it's a bad game. It's a wonderful Tales game. It's one of the better ones that have released. But for what reason did we have to get this one out of all the ones I could have gotten before that? The biggest difference between this one and the old version is that you're going to have the quality of life improvements that the most recent remaster titles have. One of them being the New Game Plus option, the grade shop that happens at the very beginning of the game. You're pretty much paying for that. Enhanced, crisper visuals? I don't know, man. It just doesn't really feel like it's worth going back and remastering this game of all the ones when we could just go to the PS4 store or Steam page and just get it from there. And it's with this particular release that I've just kind of come to accept that the Remastered project is kind of just stumbling all over itself. So this whole thing started with Tales of Graces F. Like, this was the first one that was announced to be with the Remastered project. The Remastered project is apparently going all the way through 2026, and we're going to keep on seeing titles from the series being brought back to modern platforms. This game originally was on the PS3, and before you say anything, I know this game actually was in Japan on the Wii, but for everywhere else around the world, we got Tales of Graces F. This was like the enhanced they already enhanced this version and brought it out to the West. This isn't something that is new to the Tales series. It's not a bad Tales game by any means. It has some of the best combat that we've seen throughout the entire series. They haven't brought that system back for one reason or another, but this was the first one that came out on the PS3 for all of us. And then following that, we also got Tales of Exilia. This title went a little bit more back to modern conventions for the Tales of series, like Tales of Vesperia, for example, as far as the battle system goes, with skills and whatnot. And this title was one of many in an era in which you were only able to play it on the PS3. There wasn't any other way to access these, unfortunately. The other one being Tales of Exilia 2. Now, this is where things get weird with the whole remaster project. It has already been confirmed that Tales of Exilia 2 is going to be worked on and released as part of the remaster project. But we got Vesperia first. For some reason, we just got Exilia 1. You would think this would be the next one. And I like this game more than Exilia 1. I know people will say that's blasphemy for the things that it does mechanically. And this is one that I thought that Bandai Namco also appreciated a little more than Exilia 1, because when you look at the special editions, this is a big old box for special edition for Tales of Exilia 1. It has like a figure of Mila inside of it. But if you look at the other box that came with Exilia 2, this one is even bigger than that one. Now, you know, size shouldn't necessarily matter, but in this case in particular, they put a little more love into Exilia 2. Like, there's a bigger figure of the main character Luger inside. There's like this crazy pocket watch that's in there as well. Where is that pocket watch? Back in the day, these special collector's editions had so much more than just the steelbook and the game itself. There was usually a figure that came with them, or a bunch of minifigures. There were like little extra art books on there. This right here, the Chromatis, this is a beautiful quality. They used to put things like this in here as well. Like, this is actually a very important item within the game itself. If you open it up, it's actually a mirror. It's a whole mirror in here. Like, I can almost see myself. This is mirrorception right now. And you just don't see this kind of quality of items appearing in the collector's editions for these games anymore, if there even is a collector's edition. This was like an ornament, actually. The Trail series has pilled me effectively. So one of the reasons why they would choose Berseria before doing Exilia 2 is it's just easier. It's easier, it's cheaper, the assets are already there, it's in HD. All they have to do really is just touch up some of the resolution and textures of certain things, and you're pretty much good to go. The quality of life improvements that they already had established with the previous remaster titles, you stick those in there, and that's it. That's all you have to do. You have to just package that, sell it as a new game, and people will buy it again. People like me who are going to keep buying these titles again. What scares me is that some of these titles, they're just disappearing. Like, you cannot get these two games unless you buy a dual pack on the PS3, on the PlayStation Network for PS3. And I mean, that's fine now that we have the remastered version, but Tales of Exilia 2, it's just not on there at all. It got completely removed from PSN for the PS3. This isn't the only one. Tales of Hearts R is another one. It's on the Vita. The only Tales game we got translated over here for the Vita. And I say translated, but really it's just the dialogue. The text is all in English, but the spoken language is Japanese. So they didn't actually, fully localize it, but it's better than nothing. I will happily take that than not having it at all. I feel like this could be a surprise dark horse in this remastered project. If they really wanted to, they could up-res this a bit and bring it over to Western audiences as well. If it does show up, I wouldn't be super surprised because it's a lesser known one that was on the Vita, but it definitely would be one to watch out for, I think. And another reason is that by this point, I'm pretty sure that Bandai Namco learned to keep the source code for their games, because one of the ones that is very infamous for not doing so is Tales of Symphonia. This is a really funny one because this is remastered, but it doesn't actually count as part of the remastered project. After the release of this one, I guess they were just like, oh hey, let's just go ahead and package all these under one conjoined name and call it a project. Honestly, I don't think they want to even associate this with the remastered project because the quality of life that they gave it isn't really anything of the sort. This is the PS2 version. They lost the source code for what originally was on the GameCube version, which runs at 60 frames per second. It runs a lot better, it's smoother. There's a lot of different games that have had this kind of issue in that era where playing it on a different console, if it's multi-platform, ended up less than favorable in one platform over the other, like notably less favorable. It's unfortunate that the PS2 version didn't have the same, of quality and frame rate that the GameCube version did, but this is all they had. They had to work with this one instead. So this went on to be what they used for the Chronicles version. So Tales of Symphonia Chronicles has the PS3 version of Symphonia and Dawn of the New World. I don't really mind Dawn of the New World, honestly, but I could take it or leave it. It's a sequel to Symphonia, technically, but it doesn't even really count as one of the main titles in the series. It's more like a spin-off, as according to Bandai Namco. But the fact that we did get these together does mean a lot. This did in fact bring over the Japanese exclusive content. We could play the game in Japanese. There's a little bit more added, not so much that it made a huge difference, to the point where I still would prefer the GameCube version as like my personal definitive edition, because as the game continued to get released and re-released, it somehow got worse over time. There was a recent announcement that they're working on a game. Yeah, one would think they are. All of the remasters are outsourced, which is how we're getting them so quickly. Nearly 3 remasters in 1 year is a lot. But the last time we went this long between new games was between Tales of Berseria and Tales of Arise. Bandai Namco dissolving the Tales studio in 2011 really set the production pipeline back, and the series has had its struggles since then. Games do take longer to make these days, of course, but I look at Arise and I'm like, yeah, it was a great game that just didn't really stick the landing, but it also looked a little more generic. Something about the more realistic art direction, about how skits weren't done in their traditional anime art style, it just made it lose some of that personality. I guess I'm just afraid that with the increased production value, we'll have waited all this time to just get more of that. The series doesn't necessarily need to push the level of realistic graphical fidelity. Some of my favorite Tales games have a colorful and exaggerated style with the use of pixel art and animations or cel shading. Part of what helped the production pipeline was the reuse of environments, assets, animations, and the like. I didn't mind the reuse. It's kept budgets more modest and allowed new games to release more quickly. But now everything is being built from the ground up, partly to keep up with the hardware. We obviously would like a game that's pleasant to look at, but we can certainly manage with some compromises here and there. And it's so upsetting to think that every title that released at the time of Symphonia and after are the only ones that feel like they're eligible to be part of the remaster project. Source codes for a lot of these games beforehand are not that available anymore. I don't claim to know exactly how all this worked back in the day, but storage was not cheap. They had to make room for files and things going forward. So unfortunately, some of this integral code got deleted, and it's why we have a lesser version of Symphonia today. There are so many games in this series that deserve a remaster or just a remake. Just take something and remake it. Take the original Tales of Fantasia. This was a really well-made title for the Super Famicom, and they brought it over to the Game Boy Advance. It's perfectly playable on the Game Boy Advance, but this is absolutely not my favorite or preferred way to do it, from the art style to the voice acting that they have in there. Fantasia has been remade other times. It's not like it was ever locked to the Super Famicom or the Game Boy Advance to begin with. They have versions that they can work with, and they just decided not to. This is the first in the series. I think there's a lot of legacy here with this title, and not enough people have played it because of the limitations we have with this. There's Tales of Destiny, there's Tales of Eternia. Man, poor Tales of Eternia never got a fair chance. He-Man, freaking, I hate He-Man, dude. So, Eternia was unfortunately a name that He-Man and Mattel had to copyright and say that, oh, we own the word Eternia, so if you want to release this title here, you can't do that. So they had to change the name of Tales of Eternia to Tales of Destiny 2, even though it's not a sequel to Tales of Destiny. The irony is that they eventually did release Tales of Destiny 2, which is a sequel to Tales of Destiny, but Tales of Destiny 2, which is supposed to be Tales of Eternia, is not a sequel to Tales of Destiny, and is different from this Tales of Destiny 2. It's very easy to follow, I know. But if nothing else, the Tales of Destiny Director's Cut is a very long sought after title in the Tales of community that pretty much is the definitive edition for Tales of Destiny, which is the second game in the series. I think the only time we've ever had that released out here was on the PS1, and we haven't gotten any other versions aside that one. And it's not like they haven't tried before, they definitely have. Tales of the World, Radiant Mythology for the PSP, this was like a cool little mishmash of a bunch of Tales characters coming into one world. You like create your own avatar character, but it's like kind of Avengers style, in which all these characters kind of come in to solve an overarching plot. It's not like it was the most groundbreaking plot or anything, it's very forgettable in that sense, but it was more so about the fandom, about the characters meeting, interacting, and conversating with each other. I mean, there was a lot of skits in which characters that you never would see together had conversation with each other, and that was very lovely. A lot of characters that were honestly never even given an English voice, given one for the first time here. But there were some weird things with it, like the character roster. For example, Tales of Fantasia did not have the main two faces of the series. Cress and Mint were not available as playable characters at all, or weren't even anywhere seen, but they did have Arch and Chester there. No knock against those two characters, they're great, but it was weird to just not have the main characters when the other side characters were there. And unfortunately, this title did not do well enough in the West to encourage Bandai Namco to release the sequel, Tales of the World Radiant Mythology 2, out into English-speaking audience countries as well. This has a lot more characters. Just a look at the back shows a lot of the protagonists. For example, Crest is actually here, and pretty much every protagonist all the way up to when this game was released is available here. It was a lot more fleshed out, it was just better than the original, and so much so that there was another game, the Tales of the World Radiant Mythology 3 came out as well, and we obviously didn't get this out here. I didn't even play this game. Like, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I'm assuming that it is even better than Radiant Mythology 2, considering it has even more characters up to the point of this game's release. There's even like a cool little flip cover inside. There's even more characters that are represented throughout the entire series. You even have Emil from Dawn of the New World, which I guess you can count him as part of the main pantheon of characters, I guess. I don't know, man. There are so many different ways and directions that they can take this. The Tales series is just so popular in Japan. They could bring over Tales of Fandom, of all things. I don't even really know exactly what Tales of Fandom is. This has Tales of Fantasia, Symphonia, and Tales of the Abyss characters all interacting with each other. There's cool little bits in dialogue here, like there's times from when the four heroes of Symphonia were on their journey together. There's times when certain characters were younger in Tales of the Abyss. There's so many things just for the fans, literally for the fandom. And this is volume 2. There's like 3 volumes of this, I think, for the PS2. There were so many games that came out on the PS2 that we just never got seen released here, because the fandom for this series is just different out here in the West than it is in Japan. Just earlier this year, there was an anniversary orchestra for Tales of Legendia. Legendia is like really the black sheep of this whole series that is somehow still recognized as part of the main series. This was made between Tales of Symphonia and Tales of the Abyss by a completely different team. I think that team mostly worked on Tekken. This genre wasn't exactly what this team was known for. The character designs are very foreign. The gameplay itself kind of took some steps back. The battle system was more 2D and linear, in line with games like Tales of Rebirth that came before, and didn't really exhibit the kind of like flex ranged linear motion battle system, whatever you want to call it, that was exhibited with Symphonia and Abyss. Exploring places like dungeons, for example, was extremely tedious. They were very long, and battles were random encounters, not like you run into them on the field, so it just felt way too plentiful and obstructed the gameplay. But I still really like these characters. There's such an interesting story. The entire world map is built upon the Legacy, which is a massive landmass of a ship that's just sailing the ocean of a bigger world that's somewhere out there. So it's like contextually actually that size. You know, there are some JRPGs in which you're just this little character on a map and then you walk like 2 countries worth in 20 minutes. This game contextually makes sense for the scope of which you're exploring the world map, and it has such an interesting tale about the sea tied to it. If this was remade in the Remastered project, if they had some kind of, improvements to the quality of life, if they wanted to bring this closer to the standards of Tales games today, I think this could actually do really well. But that would just be way too much work. That's just not worth the amount of money it would take to remake, retranslate, have voiceover for all the parts that weren't voiceover in the second half of the game, and to bring it to a modern audience. I still think the best example of this remastered project, which it wasn't even part of the remastered project, was Tales of Vesperia. Now, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, which that title holds a lot more weight now compared to these other remastered titles, this is the enhanced extended version of what we would get out here in the West, Tales of Vesperia for the 360. This is literally the only Xbox 360 game I have. I remember there was a 360 on sale, deeply discounted at a GameStop one day on a Black Friday, and I told myself I'm gonna get it exactly for this title, and what a joy it was. This is made by the same team that worked on Symphonia and Tales of the Abyss, and it just felt like that team never left us, there was just so much about this that resonated with me, that I adored, and I was so sad to find out that the PS4 version was an enhanced version. It came out only in Japan, and we weren't able to see like new characters being added into the roster. There was new scenarios, and more voice acting. It just kind of expanded everything upon what it originally was. And we would not see this become realized until years later when the definitive version came out on all platforms. So if there is any game that you want to see a remake or remaster of, just play it, and chances are that's going to just get released like 1.5 years or so later. Unfortunately, this is not a perfect definitive edition. They did bring a lot of the cast back, but some characters like Judith and Yuri, they had to swap voice actors, and so whenever you see a skit or a scene that was newly added, you can tell pretty much right away. The new actors for Yuri, for example, Grant George, does a perfectly fine job, but it's trying to match the original, who was Troy Baker, by the way. It just kind of is a bit jarring. I don't think they even asked Troy Baker to come back. I think he commented saying, like, Namco didn't even ask me. He's just so big and popular. I don't even know how much money it would be to get that guy to voice a Tales game these days. But I know there is still some love for the Tales series out there. Tales of Grace's F Remastered, for example, it brought back all the voice actors to voice a bunch of skits that were exclusive to Japan only. And it's weird because like these skits are very culturally adjacent to Japan. There's a lot of holidays, there's a lot of just cultural celebrations and whatnot that is just specifically towards Japan, and that's the reason why we never got them over here in the West. But they actually went back and voiced them all. That is so lovely and wonderful. They didn't need to do that, but they did it anyways. And I just wish that we could see that kind of love and attention paid across the entire remastered project this far. my pie in the sky, it still is a remake of Tales of the Abyss. I know it's a remastered project, but there are some things about this game that I feel like we could just bring it more towards the modern era. If they want to maybe surprise us towards the very end of this remastered project and have more of a proper definitive edition for Tales of the Abyss, they can totally do so. They've done it in the past. Tales of Symphonia, Vesperia, and Graces, they all have like a enhanced version that came out later down the line. Abyss didn't have that because it's already perfect. In fact, all it ever got was a port to the 3DS, and pretty much nothing was changed about it. It just was there to make it more accessible and for Namco Bandai to say, oh, by the way, a Tales game is available on the 3DS. We should probably put one on there so we can say that. This originally celebrated the 10th anniversary, and I would just love to see this come back in some shape or form. It is still probably one of my favorite Tales of titles out there. You know, what gets me the most is this specific celebratory anniversary art right here. We have characters from the most recent games and from games that have been featured in the remaster project. Very specifically chosen characters, with Luke, who just happens to be hanging out there as well. If this is not a hint that Tales of the Abyss is going to get remastered, then I'm gonna cry. If it does get announced, then I'm still gonna cry. I'm just a disaster right now. If they're releasing these outsourced remasters as soon as they're finished, then Abyss would certainly take the longest, one would think. I am putting way too much hope into this, but regardless, I am making this not really confirmed title my most anticipated of 2026. Why do we do this to ourselves? I'm just so distraught because I look at the Tales of Remastered project and there is so much potential to give just a little bit more to the fans, and it just seems like it's something that is just being pushed out to make a quick buck and to tell fans, oh, by the way, we still remember your series. Don't worry, here you go. This is everything you want on modern platforms, right? This is everything that you wanted, right? But there's just something a little bit more that I wish we had. Honestly, to anyone out there, if you are missing that Tales of feel, I genuinely tell anyone right now to go out there and play Trails in the Sky First Chapter. If you happen to be in a very similar situation as myself and you're a big Tales of fan but you never tried a Trails game, definitely give this one a shot. I think it has a lot of that feel, a lot of that kind of love and attention to it, right front and center. As I was playing this game, I could just feel like the love and attention that this team has for this game. A remake of one of the first games ever, and it just ticks so many of those boxes that I am missing with the Tales of series right here. There is a lengthy free demo available out on pretty much every platform right now. I recommend, if you love the Tales of series and you've been kind of disappointed by the remaster project or just the series in general, give this a try. If you don't enjoy this by the very end of that demo, then I mean, you give it a fair shot. But for most people, I believe, who are into the Tales of series, this is something to pay attention to. There is so much about this series that I love and adore, and I just want to see it succeed again. Tales of Arise was like 4 years ago now, the DLC was 2 years ago, and we haven't really seen much from the series since then. I'm a little afraid of what's going to happen after this remaster project. Whether it ends on a bang or not, it could mean a lot for the series. We could end up with a remade game of a title that we haven't seen in a very long time, or one that has never been released out here in the West. Or we could end up with Tales of Vesperia. If Tales of Vesperia is actually a game in the remastered project, I'm gonna quit. But that's enough from me. Sorry to ramble. I feel like I just needed to get a lot of this out there. I don't do a lot of non-scripted, off-the-cuff things because I don't feel like I can get my thoughts coherently out there, but Tales is something I can go on about. Let me know if you're waiting for a specific title to be announced down below. I will be there, coping right along with you. Alright everybody, take care of yourselves. Till we meet again.